Challenge is laid down. The Australian team, who stood linking arms across the 10-metre line inside their own half to watch that. And it will have meant quite a bit to many of the Australian team too, Tolson. 7 of this Australian side come from Fijian heritage themselves. Just shows the impact that Fiji makes on world rugby.
There's a cross-culture, isn't there, in this one? There's many players who have actually represented Fiji in rugby league as well, who are playing for Australia. So there is that cultural awareness of both teams here, and it's going to be an absolute belter. The first 10 minutes is going to be bone-shattering. There's going to be some big hits here, and Fiji, they're going to have to stand to the challenge first up. If they can get across the line, then the crowd will get behind them. The neutrals here will be supporting Fiji. For Australia, I mentioned it a moment or two ago, they haven't won back-to-back tests since 2021. Eddie Jones came in, took over, lost their first 5. They got the victory over Georgia last week after what was a pretty poor showing when they played France in their last warm-up game. So they'll be hoping for something strong here as they look ahead to what is going to be Wales later in this pool. It's an intriguing pool, and this is going to go a long way to working out who finishes where.
We are ready to go in Saint-Etienne. Ben Donaldson, who scored 2 tries last week against Georgia, his first 2 international tries of his senior career. He will get the game started. Australia, in their gold and green, will play from left to right as we look down. Fiji in their traditional white shirts with the black trim. The sun is beating down on the stadium as we prepare to get started. Every seat taken ahead of the hottest ticket in town. Huge number of Australians and Fijians have travelled to be here in Saint-Etienne for a game that is going to have an enormous impact on the outcome of this group. Referee is Andrew Brace. 3rd time he's been in charge of the Wallabies. 2nd time he's refereed a test featuring Fiji. Last time round was their autumn test against Scotland a few years ago. The big stadium clock counts down the numbers, and we are underway. The kick from Donaldson down the left-hand side as Australia come forward. Lands inside the Fijian 22. Mata receives it, presents it back for the scrum half. Kuravoli.
Now 9.
Ball coming back slowly on the Fijian side. Kuravoli kicks with his right foot, doesn't find touch. Comes down on the halfway line where Carter Gordon, the Melbourne Rebels fly half, is met by a big hit. And that's going to be a factor in these early stages because the Fijians do not shirk away from the physical battle. Australia have got an advantage here on the halfway line. That's now been activated. High tackle, penalty to Australia, and a chance to encamp inside the Fijian half.
Solid start for Australia. It was Koroibete who chased the opening kick down, but that one, yeah, it's a high shot. It's got him just below the chin there, so penalty quite rightly given. And that'll be a penalty for Australia, and they'll look to put the ball into the corner, but they've started very well, the Wallabies, in the opening 60 seconds. They've been strong in defence, and I think Carter Gordon, he's probably unintentionally been given a bad rap in how he's been playing. He hasn't had a lot of experience. He's their main and only number 10 in this squad, and he's going to have to come up with a good performance. His first time with Nick White. Let's see how it goes. Very experienced campaigner, Nick White, playing in the number 9 shirt.
First Australian line-out, David Borecki, who's taken over the captaincy duties. Manages to pick out Rob Valentini at the back of the line. No Will Skelton in the starting 15 for Australia, and that's why Borecki has been promoted. Nick Frost underneath the post. Lays it back to Valentini. This is inside the Fijian 22, central location. Options on both sides for Australia here, but a real tussle for possession, and an advantage for the Australians becomes a penalty. Penalty in front to the post.
That's two high tackles, 2 minutes in. Lower, please.
You heard Andrew Brace there just saying that's 2 high tackles
Yeah, mate.
early in.
Okay.
Keep them lower. So the warning has been given, and you think here that 3 points on offer right in front of the post, and Donaldson's going to do exactly that. He's taken over the kicking duties from Carter Gordon. He had a good week last week, and he should have a pretty easy opener. And I said it to start off with because that is almost in front and literally 15 metres out.
Ben Donaldson, who got 25 points last weekend in what was his Rugby World Cup debut. It was the most of any Wallaby in a World Cup match since Bernard Foley got 28 against England back in 2015. This is 15 metres out. Straight in front of the post, and an opportunity to give Australia the early lead in Saint-Etienne. Shot clock running down into the final 20 seconds. Donaldson takes his time. It looks routine, but he's got to give this every consideration. Here he comes, right-footed. It sails between the posts. Australia are on the scoreboard early. It is Australia 3, Fiji 0.
And that there from Ben Donaldson, fair reward for what the Wallabies have done in that opening 3 or 4 minutes, because they've had all the field possession. It's been down in the Fijian half, hasn't once yet been up inside the Wallabies 22. It's been all down inside the 50-metre zone for Fiji.
Teti Chela will get the game restarted. Fiji, who haven't been inside the Australian half yet. His kick comes down inside the Wallabies 22. Received by the all-action Rob Ballantyne, who was born and bred in Australia, but is one of those who's from a family with a strong Fijian heritage. And Australia kick away from inside their 22. No great distance on that from Carter Gordon. And it's going to be a line out midway between the halfway line and the Australian 22.
And I think this next phase of play will show us a lot about Fiji and how they're going to attack this game. 40 metres out, or just inside that 40-metre mark. They take the ball from the line out. Let's see how they play here through the phases.
Nasila Silla rising highest in the line, winning possession, feeding it to Lavani Bottia, who charges closer to that Australian 22. Stern resistance from the Wallabies. Fiji still have it with Tuisova. Joshua Tuisova, who's been spoken up a lot in the build-up to this as to how his power might trouble Australia here in Saint-Etienne. Fiji going through the phases, not over the gain line yet though. It's flung out towards Wainikolo on the right-hand side. He comes back in field and away from trouble, supported by Tangi Valu. Then a dropped shoulder by Tririki Deveta. But Australia are keeping Fiji at bay for now. Possession on the halfway line. It's flung out to Radradra on the left-hand side. 2 opponents on him immediately. He tries to release, but did it go forward into touch in the end? And that is going to be a line out to Fiji just inside their own half.
Yeah, Carter Gordon dove on the ball and just went over the sideline before he had the opportunity to get it back inside. But that's from side to side for the Fijians. Now we know they're adept at playing sevens, but that there is not really going to do anything. All it's going to do is make the defence of the Wallabies just drift out towards the right or the left, and that's exactly what it did. You can't be throwing passes over 2 and 3 people. It does no one any good. You have to work players over, and you have to keep on going the same way if that's your intention. They need to either do that or put a couple of kicks in behind, because the Wallabies' defence is coming up extremely quick. Test them out in behind.
Samuel Matavesi takes the line-out throw. 2 out of 2 successful in that regard for Fiji as they fling it out. Nathialeu over the halfway line. Gets almost to the 10-metre line in the Australian half. Then the scrum half, Kuravoli, tries to drop a shoulder. He thought there was a little gap, but it wasn't wide enough. He's tackled. Fiji still have possession. Kuravoli back in position. And again, they unleash it out wide again. And there's the big number 8, Vilami Mata, furthest on the left-hand side, and it takes 2 Wallabies to bring him down. Mark Nwanganitawaze was one of those tacklers for Australia. Fiji have it. Randrada's quick hands, but a little bit sloppy as it drops. It is going to be a knock-on. That's unfortunate for Fiji. Scrum Australia just outside their own 22.
Exactly what I just spoke about. They've done exactly the same thing. They went wide again, out to this near side through Radradra, and then they went back in, and then a pass that didn't need to go forward. There was no need for it. It was just a case of short, quick hands. and then they've got position, but they throw the ball forward, they turn position over in a really good field position for them. So the Wallabies will have the scrum, they'll have to put in around 10 or 12 metres in from the sideline and 30 metres out.
Tea time, local time in Saint-Etienne. It is approaching 2 in the morning in Sydney. It's approaching 4 in the morning in Fiji. And this commentary being broadcast live right around the planet for World Rugby and on BBC Radio 5 Sports Extra in the UK. Scrum for Australia.
Good.
Nick White puts it in. Immediately it pops out the rear. Australia given to the first set to Samu Kerevi. Scored a try against Fiji at the last World Cup in Japan 4 years ago. He's brought to a halt around about the 10-metre line inside the Wallabies half. Nick White will kick on the scrum half. Up over the halfway line, trying to get Nwanga Nitawaze. An aerial battle, the ball comes down in Fijian hands. Foot in touch, and there's going to be an advantage activated for a knock-on anyway. Scrum to Fiji, just inside their own half. It's Australia 3, Fiji 0.
Nice kick that. Wonderful box kick, a real good chase down there on it. And in the end, very unlucky for the Australians not to come up with the ball and to get it back. But there's been some solid defence in this opening passage of play in these first 10 minutes, and it's been Fiji who've had pretty much most of the possession, but it's been the Australians who have had the field position, so they have it now. It'll be Fiji with the ball just inside their own half, around 45 metres out from their goal line, and let's see what they'll do here. I suspect they'll head straight towards the midfield with their big 12 and 13.
Reset by referee Andrew Brace. Fiji scrum forced 3 penalties against Wales last weekend. How will they fare against this Wallabies pack now? A Wallabies front 8 that doesn't have the captain Will Skelton today. Calf injury has seen him miss this game. This is left-hand side of the field as Fiji come forward. Kuravoli lays it in immediately. It comes back to him at the rear. Good push from Australia, but Fiji holding firm. Referee urges Fiji to use it, and it spins above the required degrees, and that will be a reset. Still Fijian scrum.
Yeah, it's not very often we see a scrum that actually goes around past 90 degrees these days, and it's reset, so we go again.
Okay, let's go quickly.
And Fiji, they've been known to be strong and powerful before, but they've got to show a bit of finesse in this game if they're to try and come up with the points.
Quickly then, fellas, please. Line up.
It's a warm day as well, and you can hear Andrew Brace telling the players to be a bit quicker with the scrum, but it is extremely warm, around 27, 28 degrees.
These temperatures today a little bit cooler than a week ago when these sides played their opening games, but it's still very warm. And in this stadium where there's no gaps in the corners, it's particularly hot at pitch side.
And use it!
42,000 capacity stadium watching on as Fiji win the scrum, and it's out through Niatalamu, and he throws to his right hand side to Isova, looking for a little bit of space. It's presented back by Wainivolo. Fiji still having more big hits as they bulldoze their way through the centre of the field. Australia coming up in a line to defend, and there's a hit that goes in on Tririki Daveta. Advantage coming Fiji's way, and that's a disappointment because just as Kuravoli had broke away for Fiji and was sprinting almost unopposed into the 22, the referee's whistle had been blown, and there's a grimace there and an almost look of apology from Andrew Brace, who probably wished he waited just a few more seconds there, and Fiji would have exploited their advantage.
I'll tell you why he didn't give the advantage then, because Kuravoli threw the ball into the Australian player who was on the ground. The ball just happened to go back to him. That's why he blew it up, because the ball went into the Australian player first. So I think that's a good decision by Andrew Brace, because the ball had been played, he threw it into the Australian player, aiming to get the penalty, and it was just by sheer coincidence that the ball then popped straight back up and he went to go through the gap.
So the penalty, with 10 minutes played in Saint-Etienne, is going to give Fiji an opportunity to level up the scoreboard. Simone Kuravoli, 18th cap for him, scored a try against England 3 weeks ago in one of the warm-up games for this tournament. He has the responsibility of taking this kick, which is just outside 10-metre line distance, central location. Fiji playing right to left as we look down. Australia leading 3-0 from the early Ben Donaldson penalty kick. Now can Kuravoli make it 3-3? Here it comes, plenty backspin, high, spiralling through the post. The white flags raised. Fiji back on level terms in Saint-Etienne. We've played 11 minutes, nothing between them so far, 3-3.
And a worthwhile 3 points for the Fijians. If you kick your first one from around 40 metres out and you nail it through the post, then you're going to be looking at having a good day, hopefully from the boot, if that's the case. So it's Australia now to take it back to the Fijians, but Fiji are almost trying to play in the way that they're going to not outmuscle the Australians, but outrun them physically.
Restart from Donaldson, lands inside the Fijian 22, caught by Tetitela, the fly half, and his right-footed kick finds his touch. Line out for Australia, just inside the Fijian half. 3-3. Line out is taken quickly, and Richard Arnold, number 5 in his back, having replaced Will Skelton. He's lifted by his teammates to receive. Australia have got a bit of forward propulsion here. Ball in the hands of David Porecki, their captain today, and they are slowly tiptoeing their way towards that Fijian 22. Now it's released out. Kerevi into contact, presents it back for Nick White, the scrum half. He sees a gap down the narrow side. The left as Australia come forward, nearly gets into that Fijian 22. Now Australia spread themselves a bit wider. Tom Hooper into contact, the flanker. Down the narrow side again goes Carter Gordon. He's hit by a big bruising tackle by one of the Fijian props. It was Ironi Mavi, and the ball spills into touch.
Well, I'm sure you heard the noise of the crowd there, the gasp when Gordon was hit, because it was an absolute bumping hit. The ball was said to have gone forward, and I think they're having a little look at it. Now, have the arms wrapped around when the tackle was made?
Yeah.
The question is, I think the player coming over the top.
Just higher binds is a call on the last scrum.
So the actual tackle down low is fine.
Higher bind. Yeah.
The tackle over the top is what they're looking at.
Just on that last one, James, just higher binds. Okay, good height and higher and better binds.
It seems as if everything's fine.
Yeah. Thanks.
So we will play on. James Slipper getting a bit of attention at the moment. The man who's playing at tight head today is getting his left ankle quite heavily strapped up. Of course, he's chasing George Gregan's Rugby World Cup record to try and catch up with him, but Slipper is in a position that he's not normally accustomed to playing at tight head, so he's getting a bit of work done on the ankle, which isn't great at this early stage.
Yeah, this is James Slipper's third start at tight head in his senior international career. 73 of his 75 starts before today have all been at loose head.
It was a good contest. I thought it was a good contest.
Scrum to Fiji, just outside their own 22. 3-3 in Saint-Etienne. Earlier on today, South Africa overwhelmed Romania 76 points to 0 in Bordeaux. Later on this evening, England take on Japan. Mexican wave making its way around the stadium as the two teams get set for this scrum.
Point! Set!
Kuravoli presents it in. Scurries around the rear of the Fijian scrum. Big push on by Australia. And it'll be reset. Fiji put in again.
Second time we've reset the scrum too. I was just thinking to myself, this is going a little bit slow, these scrums. We've seen them a lot quicker during this World Cup so far. So one area where the game maybe is slowing down somewhat and the players are getting a bit of time to get some air into the lungs. Or those outside the scrum anyway. Maybe not those ones who are actually in it pushing.
Roars from the crowd as the Mexican wave continues to spiral around the Stade Geoffrey Guichard. After today, the next action of this Rugby World Cup will be on Wednesday. Tea time kickoff French time when Italy take on Uruguay. And on Thursday, the hosts are back in action. France face Namibia, 9 p.m. local time in Marseille. This afternoon in Saint-Etienne, heavyweight challenge here, 3-3 between Australia and Fiji. This time the scrum holds firm. Kuravoli releases it out to the backs. Fiji, who love to run, and they get it to Radradra, who steps on the accelerator up over the halfway line, and he's greeted by a strong tackle from Samu Kerevi. It is a great sight to see Semi Radradra in full flight. He made up great ground there, but Fiji penalised 10 metres inside the Australian half.
Yeah, I've no doubt whatsoever that Fiji, obviously they've seen a weakness out wide for the Australians and they're trying to punish them out on the left and right wing, so it's going to be a busy day on the wings for the Aussies in Koroibete. and Nawaka Tasi as well. So that's going to be a very, very hard job for them out there, really working over the outside wings of the Australians.
All of Fiji's 26 points against Wales came in either the first quarter of the game or the last quarter of the game. We've played quarter of an hour here in Saint-Etienne. Line out for the Wallabies. Dave Porecki towards the rear, well received by Nick Frost. And then there's a little reverse pass from Carter Gordon. Running into heavy traffic, Australia give it away just outside the road 22. A kick away by Isoa Nasilasila, who knew advantage was coming his way. It was a poor kick. It doesn't matter anyway. It comes back for a scrum to Fiji.
He'll be thankful for that. That's probably the worst kick I think we've seen so far during this Rugby World Cup. It was an absolute shocker. That's why you don't get locks who are kicking the ball.
In the tackle on Fiji ball.
So Fijian put in. Fiji, who got 21 points against Australia at the last World Cup 4 years ago. That's the most they've ever scored against the Wallabies in the professional era.
Last scrum's excellent.
Respective front rows packed down again. Angus Bell, David Porecki and James Slipper for Australia. Eroni Maui, Samuel Matavesi, Luke Tanguy for Fiji. Kuravoli, the Fijian, scrum half rolls it in. Quickly out, and he throws to his right-hand side where Tuisova had made himself available. All the way out to Wainivolo. Up to the halfway line, but a turnover of possession, and Australia get it back again. Nwanga Nitowaze tackled as he tries to kick it forward. Ricochets off a few people, but there's no knock-on. Australia still have possession. Ball in the hands of Korobete. To his left-hand side is Carter Gordon. Australia move back over the halfway line again and down the left, which is the narrower side. It's whipped by Nick White out to Kerevu. Now they try to come infield again with big Nick Frost, who made the most line-out steals for the Wallabies this season so far. He's a very important player in that regard. Kick towards the corner. Bounces, bobbles, goes out. It's going to come back, and there will be an option.
Okay.
I am flummoxed by why the Fijians constantly look at cutting people out and going straight out to the winger. It was that occasion, it was the captain in Naya Thalevu who had the ball passed straight past him and going out to the far winger on the right-hand side in Wanakolu. So I don't see the reason him doing that. It's just put it through the hands because you're drawing the defender in. It's a lot easier for the defender if the ball gets cut out and goes across and they drift towards the sideline.
3-3 in Saint-Etienne, warm temperatures, boisterous crowd looking on. Australia, who very often put up impressive scores against Fiji, they've only been held to less than 31 points in a game once in this fixture since 1985. Fijian put into the scrum, brought forward by Mata. 10 metres inside their own half, Fiji keep it moving. The recycling has been quick from the Pacific Islanders. Kick ahead here by Tronasese, all the way into the Australian 22, where it's received by Ben Donaldson, and he puts a big right boot on it, finds his touch, 10 metres or so into Fijian territory. 3-3 it remains.
They thought about taking a quick one then, but it was Nick White who was coming across in the middle, so they didn't take it. They're going to have the ball though, Fiji, and that was a bit better. They didn't have an option on there, so they put the ball over the top. Wasn't the greatest kick, but they're going to get the ball back, and it's not just throwing the ball around and hoping for the best. Carter Gordon got absolutely mullered and run over the top of there by one of the Fijian players. I couldn't see who it was, but he got absolutely busted out of the way.
Fiji's line out very good again. Nasilasila rising at the rear of the line, popping it down to the scrum half, Kuravoli. And it is going to be a penalty to Fiji.
Number 8, taking the space.
Wallabies defence been asked a lot of questions in this opening 20 minutes.
Yeah, and some very good questions as well, but they could be asked some better ones. As I said, I think Fiji probably should go through the hands more than just going out to the side. They're going to take another shot at goal here. So 3-all, 45 metres out. The first kick was from a similar position, maybe a bit straighter for Kuravoli. So he's going to take a second one here and see if he can put the Fijians in front. But the game so far has been with the Fijians trying to throw the ball wide and the Wallabies just trying to keep it tight and then put little kicks over the top. So Fiji obviously believe they can wear the Wallabies down by throwing the ball wide and then trying to catch them back on the inside through their strong, fast players if they can throw those inside balls. But if they just get the ball in hand more than throwing those ones over the top, they'll have a lot more success.
So an attempt to try and give Fiji the lead for the first time. Simone Kuravoli, long kick this one, almost at the halfway line. Ever so slightly left of centre as Fiji come forward. Shot clock down into the final 10 seconds now. Here comes Kuravoli, right-footed, high, towards the post, through the post. Both white flags raised, and Fiji lead Australia by 6 points to 3 in a game that is simmering to the boil now.
Yeah, now here's the important part. Whenever you score points, you need to take the ball from the kickoff, you need to secure possession and need to work the ball back downfield and get yourself back into the game. So many times teams, they just loosen off after the kickoff when they've scored points.
Restart kick, Ben Donaldson for Australia, comes down inside the Fijian 22, presented back by Tangi Valu.
And use it.
Slow ball for Fiji. Kuravoli drags it back under his own studs and then lifts and kicks. High kick that comes down near the halfway line. Carter Gordon underneath it for Australia. He's immediately bundled into touch. He did well to feel the high ball, but then he had a swarm of white-shirted Fijians all around him. And the crowd, the Fijian supporting crowd, very much enjoyed that.
I have to feel for the young fella then. It was a great kick that was put up by Kuravoli. It came down only a couple of metres inside the sideline. He has to take the ball. The Fijians were smart. They let him come down. Two of them lifted him straight over the sideline. They've got the ball. Great play from Fiji.
Fiji's line-out did very well against Wales last week, and they've started in a similar vein here. Nice reverse pass by Kuravoli as Fiji move over the halfway line. Here in Saint Etienne last night, we watched the Ireland-Tonga game in a bar surrounded by a very large Fijian group who are in very good form and spirits. They were very much looking forward to this game, and I think they'll be pleased with how it has started as Tuisova makes a break and gets between the 10-metre line and the 22 inside Wallaby territory. Great energy from the Fijians. Tangi Valu again presents it back. Kuravoli to the right-hand side this time. To Luke Tangi, the big prop. His 20th cap for his country. Slowly, Fiji edging their way towards the Wallabies 22. Bottia, met by a tackle, drops the ball. Australia regain possession. They have an advantage too. Nick White will go for a long, expansive kick, and it's an excellent one. It bounces and finds its touch inside the Fijian 22. There's a quick line out taken. There was no reset from Fiji. Kerevi goes over for the opening try. Fiji switching off a little bit in response to a long kick, and they allowed the quick throw in be taken. Mark Nwanga Nitawaze celebrates his 8th international try. Australia 8, Fiji 6. Eddie Jones will be delighted with how that happened.
Well, it was a 50-22. The kick that was downfield, it went out, it bounced over the sideline inside the 22. 50-22. The Fijians were complaining about it. The crowd aren't happy about it, but it does bounce out outside, or inside I should say, the 22. Now the question is about the ball.
Line out throw taken quickly by Nwanga Nitawaze into Kerevi, who gives it back to him and he scores. What's very important here is that nobody else touched the ball. From Nick White's kick, which bounced into touch, had it hit a ball boy's hand, had it hit a Fijian player, then it would have gone dead, but nobody else touched it except the Australians, and it's the quick thinking of Mark Nwanga Nitawaze that has rewarded Australia with the opening try of this game.
And he's having a ball, isn't he? He's scoring tries in all his games. He scored in the last game against Georgia, he scored against France, and he's picked up another one here.
So Ben Donaldson with the opportunity to add the 2 extras. Kick wide on the right-hand side, 5 metres in for the touchline. Here he comes, short run up. Right-footed kick drags across the face of the target, and that is wide. So 8-6 the scoreline. A little bit of naivety punished for Fiji there. They will be disappointed, having worked so well in the opening 20 minutes of this game, that they didn't react quicker and more decisively there.
Well, disappointment for Fiji. wonderful for Eddie Jones and the Wallabies. Puts them in front, and to be honest, it's probably against the run of play because Fiji have had the better of the possession with the ball.
Game back underway. It's been a lively start to events. 25 minutes played in Saint-Etienne. Australia 8, Fiji 6. And Australia have got a good ball rolling there. However, it's dropped, collected by Kuravoli. He sprints up to the Australian 22. It's such a wide open game, this. Ball had been knocked on by Kuravoli, and that will be a scrum to Australia just outside their own 22.
Yeah, I think it was Luke Tanguy who dropped the ball there. Kuravoli, they managed to force the ball and turn it over. They were asking why they don't go back for the advantage because the referee clearly said that the advantage was well over. Kuravoli takes the ball from the Wallabies, dropping it, makes a scurrying little run, and then Luke Tanguy tries to pick the ball up and go from there. There's questions maybe about the tackle. That's what the crowd are booing about, but Luke Tanguy, all he does is pick the ball up. If he goes to his right, there's no one there at all, but he's had too many things and options in front of him, and he doesn't pick the ball up. He knocks it on. The Wallabies now will have it, but there's going to be a question for the TMO to answer here before we continue on with this.
Right, so the scrum was set, it was about to happen, and Andrew Brace, the referee, has said, stop the clock. TMO Brian McNeice has been looking at the replays, clearly feels there is more of a case to answer here. It was a Fijian break from the halfway line, almost into the Wallabies 22. Good run by the scrum half, Simone Kuravoli. And then as the Australian rearguard attempted to stop him, there's a suggestion of a high tackle here, which could result in a penalty to Fiji in front of the post. It's the opposition scrum half. It's Nick White coming back after one of his teammates did tackle low and fair. It's the arrival of White coming in high with his right arm. Does that wrap around the neck of the opponent? And is that going to hit the quota for further action? High tackle, penalty Australia is certainly the decision. And it would feel no further action required than that.
Yeah, I think it's his actual shoulder. Nick White's actually just gone to apologise to Kuravoli, which is a nice thing to see. But I think as he wrapped his arm around the position he was in, it just happened to be that his shoulder, as the player dropped, his shoulder made contact with the side of Kuravoli's head. So it's a fair enough penalty, but there's no further action needed to be taken. So good decision there made by all.
So, big moment of the game. Australia, who a few minutes ago got the opening try, leading by 8 points to 6. But Fiji and Simone Kuravoli now have the opportunity to take the lead themselves.
There's a quick one for you though. Goal kicking, how important it's going to be. We've already seen the question marks asked over the Wallabies, with Gordon now taken away from the goal kicking duties and Ben Donaldson, who's missed that one from out wide here. If Kuravoli gets this, he's 3 from 3, so they're looking good in that department.
It's about 5 metres outside the 22. 10 metres in from the sideline. Right hand side as Fiji come forward. Kuravoli, a right-footed kicker. And he's bending over, statuesque stance as he prepares to launch this kick. 4 paces forward, right-footed kick through the post. It's been impeccable place kicking so far. And Fiji, for the second time in the game, lead the Wallabies 9 points to 8 in Saint-Etienne.
In major tournaments, it's so important that you have a goal kicker who is always on the money, not just every now and then, but at least around that 90% mark. You have to have someone who does that, and Kuravoli is doing that at present. He's 100.
Australia's restart kicked into the Fijian 22. We always had the inkling this could be a close game today, and it's very much beginning in that fashion. Toe-to-toe in Saint-Etienne. Australia 8, Fiji 9. The Fijians kick away back over the halfway line. It's received by Carter Gordon in touch, and that will be a line out just over the halfway line.
Fiji, the line. The line, please.
This is where cool heads are required. Game management. Eddie Jones watching on in his elevated position. What will he have made of these opening 28 minutes of the game? Carter Gordon throwing to his right-hand side. Valadini into heavy traffic in the midfield. Still there for the Wallabies. Nick White throws to his right-hand side to the experienced James Slipper. 138th cap today for Slipper. Gordon tries to step infield again, runs into a tackle, manages to lay it back for Nick White, and Now there'll be a kick ahead by the scrum half. Great elevation on that one. Highest kick of the day. Randrada's underneath it. Two Fijians jump together. Neither could get it. There's an advantage coming Australia's way for a knock-on as Pitaya kicks towards the corner. Advantage has expired. Inside the dead ball line, a tackle on Randrada. And it will be a goal line kick, drop kick for Fiji.
Yeah, the advantage was there for the knock-on. So in the end, the kick that's gone through actually wasn't a bad kick. I thought it was just going to hang in play there for a little while. It didn't. Randrada takes it and realises he's got two players on him. Just takes it over the dead ball line. So it is going to be a goal line dropout, whether he was tackled in goal or whether he went over the back there.
Good challenge for that kick. Nick White got enormous elevation on it. It gave his teammates the opportunity to have reached the drop zone before the ball came down. Here is big Tom Hooper, the Australian number 6, 8th cap for him. There's a lot of buzz about Hooper and what he can bring to this Wallabies team. Now it comes out along the back line through Karevu and Pitaya. Now the Wallabies back into the Fijian 22. Just the last few minutes is the best we've seen from Australia in the game. They're beginning to find some fluidity. Valentini presents it back slightly more central now. Just outside the Fijian 22, Gordon skips one in the line, out to the prop Angus Bell, who has got enormous upper body strength and he holds off a few opponents. Nwanga Nitawase tries a dancing manoeuvre which works. He's able to skip away from Aroni Maui, who grabs onto the back of his shirt, pulls it back, and it's going to be a penalty to Fiji and a big roar for the Fijian spectators in the crowd.
I was just thinking to myself that the Fijians are starting to miss a couple of tackles. They've only missed 4 so far, and I'd say 3 of those have come in the last couple of minutes. But what the Wallabies are doing is they're taking the ball into contact, but they're getting rid of the ball before it forms a ruck. So when that happens, it's meaning that more players are having to come in and make more tackles, and that, in turn, tires the opposition out. So they're playing better from that perspective at the moment.
If you're just joining our coverage, wherever you're listening around the world, maybe on rugbyworldcup.com or the official tournament app, it is Australia 8, Fiji 9, with a half an hour played. Fiji chasing a bit of World Cup history as they look to beat Australia at one of these tournaments for the very first time. And regardless of in a World Cup or not, you've got to go back so far for the last time Fiji beat Australia. They really feel it's due. Shortened line out, well claimed. Fiji have looked so good in that regard, and we've seen in many games of this tournament so far, a misfiring line-out can be such a problem for teams, and Fiji so far no problems in that department. Kuruvoli tries to take it out, too much impediment ahead of him from Australians, and it's a penalty Fiji. 10 metres into the Australian half.
And I suspect from there, the way he's been kicking the ball, he's 40 metres out and he's about 70 from the touchline. I just wonder whether he might be tempted to take a shot at goal here. He is going to do that because he's been hitting the ball spectacularly well. Now that there, if you're looking at it from the distance he's out, he's probably around 50 metres if you take it from that position, but he's been hitting the ball well. He's been finding the post very easily, and Fiji, from being under pressure down their end of the field and then the Wallabies making a mistake, have really done well with that rolling maul there and in a strong position, and now have the opportunity to take advantage of with 3 more points. They're playing the game in a different way to how Fiji would normally do it. They started off with that fast, get the ball out wide, almost like a sevens approach. But what they've been doing is they've been solid with the ball in the centre as well, and they've been taking those penalty chances when they've come.
So, a chance for Fiji to extend their lead here. Australia 8, Fiji 9. 8 minutes of game time to go until the break. 3 successful kicks out of 3 so far for Simone Kuruvoli, but this is probably the most testing range that he has faced in the game so far. Left-hand side as Fiji come forward. A hush descends over the crowd. Here he comes, Kuruvoli, right-footed. He's certainly got the distance. Does he have the accuracy? He does. 4 successful kicks out of 4. Brings Fiji up to 12 points. They are laying down the gauntlet to the Wallabies here. Australia 8, Fiji 12 in Saint-Etienne.
And he has a lovely, relaxed kicking style when he hits the ball. He doesn't just try and hit the ball too hard. You'll find that kickers sometimes, when they're in that distance, they'll try and kick it much too hard, and then they end up hooking it across to the left. He's not doing that. He's just hitting it wonderfully every time.
He's got a very deliberate routine, just a little rocking motion before he sets off with his run towards the kick. It'll be interesting to see actually if he gets a conversion attempt later on. We've seen in this World Cup many teams rushing out to try and press the kicker. He does take a long run up to it. Whether that could be a factor, but You can't argue with these finishing stats here. 4 successful kicks out of 4 as Carter Gordon for the restart comes forward and loses possession for Australia. Groans from the Wallaby fans. There's a hunger about Fiji. Kuruvoli kicks it forward into the Wallabies 22. Chance to set himself, and then a kick back by Pataya. Good distance on it. Brings Australia deep back into Fijian territory. Once again, it's a good game this, Tulsa Tullen.
Do you know the danger then? I could see the ball, the Fijians looking at the ball and wondering, is that going to go into play or is it going to go out? Now, from where he kicked it, it's a 50-22 if it goes out inside the 22. So I was looking for if the ball possibly bounced and then went out. They're in a position where they've got to try and take it and keep it in field. As it is, the Fijians have got the ball around 25 metres out from their line.
2 meters 7.
Line out will be thrown by Samuel Matavesi. And again, it's received comfortably from a Fijian point of view. They've been 100% so far in their line-outs taken. Korobetti has fumbled a catch inside his own 22, but it didn't knock forward. So he can scurry back, collect it, and then he runs and skews a kick outside of his boot. That's not what he meant to do. It's received by Droya Sese, just outside the 10-metre line, inside his own half. He forces his way up to the halfway line. Tackled by Valentini, who was only just below the shoulder mark there. Fiji still have possession. Not the most clean passes, then very sevens as it's almost American football style, thrown through legs out towards the wing on the right, and Vainivolo. Still, they hold on to possession, Fiji, on the halfway line. Mata to his left-hand side. Bottia gets a touch too. And Australia having to spread themselves thin here as they try to contain a very energetic, free-flowing Fijian team. Tella drops a shoulder, sells a dummy, makes 5 metres. A little bit closer now to the halfway line. Bottia tries a step. He's supported by Tangi. They keep the ball alive and alive, Fiji, but eventually it comes back after 2 altercations for the Wallabies. Penalty Fiji just inside their own half.
Well, he's been given the option of taking one of 2 different marks there because there were 2 different penalties as we went through. The hit on Droya Sese, I'll be interested to see if they've had a look at it because it might have been a bit higher with the arm just wrapping around the neck. It doesn't appear that anything's untoward with it, so it's going to continue on. And the ball has been put out, and it will be Fiji on the attack with Teti Tella putting the ball out inside the 22. Time off. There's an injury for the Wallabies.
Just over 4 minutes of game time to go until the break. And this has been a very satisfactory first half for Fiji in particular. Quick thinking from Australia, who gave them a try through Mark Nwanganita-Waze. But otherwise, it's the Pacific Islanders who have dominated most of the play. They have had most of the possession. And Eddie Jones, make no mistake about it, Australia are in a battle here in Saint-Etienne.
And if you wondered why there was booing, it was Eddie Jones was on camera. And now they're cheering because Simon Rawalui is on camera for the Fijians. So there's a definite neutral feel going towards the Fijians here in this game. But at the moment down the ground, it's Richie Ardle who's just receiving attention. He came in to replace Will Skelton, the captain who had to withdraw with that calf injury. So you don't want to lose a guy who's then come in to replace someone as it is. But we're heading towards half-time, and this has been a wonderfully quick opening 35 minutes or so. It's been one of those games, Connor, where it's gone so quick that you don't realise you're actually getting towards half-time because it's been so interesting.
In the wonderful history of Fiji and rugby, they keep the ball alive. If there's an opportunity to release an offload, to keep things moving, that's always the preference as opposed to bringing the ball into contact, and it makes it exhilarating to watch. However, first miscued line out for the Fijians. Matavesi's throw does not find its target, but then Australia give away a penalty inside the 22. Now this is interesting. It's within range of the post, but will Fiji be confident enough to kick this one to the corner?
Well, they might well go for the corner, and I think they are going to do that. I think you just saw the captain who came in there in Naya Thalivu. I think he just said to the referee, Andrew Brace, we're going to head towards the corner, and that's exactly what is going to happen. They are confident. They believe they can score a 5-pointer, if not 7, before half-time. The Wallabies, though, consistently give away penalties. Normally they give a yellow card away in a game as well. Let's see what happens in this one. But they consistently give away penalties and put themselves under pressure in these positions.
You'll have heard the roar of approval from the crowd there as Fiji, having just lost a line out, were brave enough to kick it out for another here. They don't want the 3 easier points of the post. They want to go and try and get their first try of the game. Line out throw taken towards the rear. Again, though, sloppy. Recovered. Porecki gets his hands on the ball for Australia. 7 metres out from their own try line. Sigh of relief for the Wallabies. It's thrown back to Carter Gordon, whose right-footed kick will find its touch. So Fiji still remain on the attack. They are still inside the Wallabies 22, but that's now 2 lineouts in a row that didn't hit their target.
Part of me thinks that they're going to go to the front in this lineout and just secure possession, because the two they've tried to throw towards the 3/4 of the way down their lineout just haven't worked at all. They've been pinched by the Australians both times, so I think this one they may well play it safe.
We saw Portugal score a clever try yesterday with the line out taken to the very front of the line. This is Matavesi to the rear again. And this time it is held on to. Mata tries to ping it back, but there was infractions with the players supporting him. It is going to be a scrum to Australia. You know, little moments like the last few minutes of this game play such a huge part in the overall narrative. It felt like Fiji were about to try and turn the screw, and Australia have been able to survive now 3 serious questions at their try line.
Yeah, but they actually had the ball. They took the ball down. What would I know, being a back? I wouldn't know anything about lineouts. They've gone to the back again and made it 3 this time. A lucky third they took it. But they took the ball down, but it just was knocked on when they brought the ball down. So they were in a position to actually attack. That time, it was just their own undoing of the situation which handed the ball over.
Australia 8. Fiji 12, 90 seconds of game time to go until the break. Australian put into a scrum inside their own 22, left-hand side of the field as the green and gold side come forward. Nick White rolls it in, gets it at the rear, back to Carter Gordon. It's thrown out to his right to Jordan Pataya, who sends a high kick, probably not quite as much distance as he was hoping. It's skewed, and it has gone out for a line out just outside the Australian 22. They've had a couple of opportunities now to clear their lines, the Wallabies, and they've not been able to clear them very far.
It's a strange one, that one, though, because if you're going to go a couple wide, you might as well put it down the tram lines and keep the ball in play. But he looked like he was kicking it towards the sideline. He found absolutely no distance at all, and it's Fiji with the ball now. Terrible pass, but picked up absolutely wonderfully there.
Yeah, really good line out, and then it was thrown back to Tuisova, who judged the bounce of the misshapen ball, and then taken on through. A charge comes from Andrade in a more central position now. Fiji tried to step on the accelerator and bring pace into the game. Dora Hasese kicks towards the corner. It bounces, it bubbles, it finds its touch. It's a line out to Australia, but they are penned back in 5 metres from their own try line again.
And I think they'll just about have time to take the line out here before the half-time whistle sounds. They try and take a quick one.
Too quickly. Referee Andrew Brace say that it wasn't set. Ironi Maui, the Fijian prop, picked up the ball and ran over the try line, and that's why you're hearing boos in the background. Fijian fans, some French neutrals, thought that they had a try to celebrate, but it's going to come back for the reset line out to Australia.
Well, Porecki's lucky as well, because he threw the ball there and found absolutely no one in his team, and he's lucky. Andrew Brace said that he had to bring the ball back.
Porecki's line out, shortened line, thrown to Nick Frost, who receives it comfortably, and then it's kicked away by Nick White with the clock on red. That is half-time. Australia 8, Fiji 12. And a very interesting opening 40 minutes to this game.
Yeah, extremely. And the way that Fiji threw the ball around at times, especially in that opening 15 minutes, they were going left, they were going right. They were trying to get the long pass all the way out to their wingers. They wanted their wingers to get the ball in hand. They weren't going through the hands, though. If they've done that and maybe dropped one back inside and had someone try and change the angle of attack, it may well have helped them out, because you need to work that Wallabies defence over. They've looked good, though. The goal kicking from Kuravoli has been fantastic. He's picked himself up 4 from 4. They backed themselves to go to the corner there. The problem they've got is perhaps that line out. They've got to work on that and have a chat about it at half time, because they lost 2 in a row. They won the third one. Then they handed the ball over there from a knock-on with the ball hitting in from Kuravoli into one of his players, so they lost possession there. But they've had the better of this first half. They've had 57 or 60% of possession of the ball. They've had it in good positions after earlier withstanding that through the Australians coming down into their 22. Australia have got a lot to work on. They've got to make sure that when they're holding the ball, they do just that, because Gordon has dropped it a couple of times. He's been thrown out of play, and defensively Fiji are trying to hit him in the midfield and then work their way on from there, so that when they slow the ball down and they get a couple of phases together, the Wallabies did look quite good. But that's what they've got to do and try and work the Fijians over.
Every single game Australia have played this calendar year 2023 so far, in every single match they have conceded the first try of the second half in all of those games. And you can imagine Eddie Jones in that changing room now insisting that his team do not allow that pattern to continue. Australia do not want this 4-point advantage to Fiji to get much bigger, but the Fijians will have to be inspired by that performance. There'll be great belief in their changing room at half-time.
Yeah, absolutely, and we talked about that it's been so long since they beat the Australian team, and they haven't beaten them in a Rugby World Cup. Now you have to remember as well, in the last Rugby World Cup they were ahead at half-time. They ended up losing the game, but it was a different kettle of fish. The Wallabies were a different beast back then. They were a different team. They were much more positive in how they played the game, and they perhaps had a better squad of players. Now, I'm not saying this squad of players aren't good, but I don't know if they were as good as that squad back in 2019. There's a lot of rebuilding being done by Eddie Jones. There is a lot of work to do. Can they come up with a performance in the second half that might, well, revitalise them and take them through to a possible quarter-final? Who knows? But they're going to have to start quick and stop giving away those silly penalties.
So it's all to play for in the second half. This is going to be intriguing, well worth tuning in for. We've got coverage of Australia against Fiji to come here. The second half from the Stade Geoffroy Guichard in Saint-Etienne. Australia 8, Fiji 12 for the moment. Earlier on today, South Africa made easy work of it in Pool B. They were playing Romania in Bordeaux. It finished South Africa 76, Romania 0. Later on today, England take on Japan. That's Pool D. It's on the south coast of France in Nice, 9 p.m. local kickoff time. Check the Rugby World Cup website for kickoff times wherever you are listening across the globe. Don't forget you can get involved in the conversation on social media. Use the hashtag RWC2023. Remember to give us a follow on the official tournament social channels as well. You'll find us at Rugby World Cup across all major platforms. And Rugby Pass TV is the home of the Rugby World Cup archives from 1987 through to 2019, from Lina to Momu, all available on rugbypass.tv or via the RPTV app. So we've got second half coverage to come here in Saint-Etienne, but in the meantime, let's hear from one of the stars of Fijian rugby in recent years and a player who's involved in this game we're watching here. Semi Randrada looking to earn the pride of a rugby-loving nation and to emulate the Fijian heroes who beat Wales in 2007.
In possession now, and here off his wing comes Tuisova causing damage. So is Randrada. Can he finish here? Randrada right through the heart of Georgia. Never doubt this man. Speed, acceleration, devastating footwork, and Fiji have their fourth score.
And it means a lot to the people back home. World Cup, so everyone's back home, they're watching it. All the players in Fiji, 332 islands, they're always looking forward to that, the big games, World Cup. Man, it inspires me a lot. Inspires me a lot just to play rugby. I know that there's a lot of things we can do to achieve.
Again, they have a shout at the referee, and what's going to happen here? Well, he decides the ball's gone forward, and that's no side, and that is the end of the game. A massive, massive win here for Fiji. 38-34. They've beaten Wales, and they're through to the quarterfinals.
I remember watching it. I was back in the village. We were watching it on the farm, so it was Fiji. Was I think everyone comes together to watch the game. For them to beat Wales and then reaching the quarter, like it was for everyone, even Fiji. And that's why I think all the Fijians, they sort of like, I was young watching that, and then I want to be part of that. So I think this year is a good chance for us to make that happen again.
And at Prasidze and Georgia outside their 22 into the last 5 minutes here in Osaka and the Hanazono Stadium, and Georgia now looking tired. They've just lost possession, and Randrada could finish it off and take Fiji for a 7th score.
I think we've been in the same pool for like 2 World Cup now with the same team. So I think a really good chance for us to do some damage at this World Cup.
Instead of taking contact, the Fijians decide to go and go wide and go wide and go wide. And here is Tuisova out on the wing, taking out one man, taking out two. The inside pass. Here's an opportunity now for Yato to score in the corner for Fiji after just 7 minutes. And the Australians are on the ropes.
I think we unlucky on the last World Cup. We had a stacked team as well. I think just the way we play Australia in the first half, we sort of like the way we played them last time. I think we can beat them. So just a few fundamentals from the Fiji. So it would be a good chance as well to show it to them as well for this World Cup. Everyone knows what Eddie Jones can bring, but like I said, like we just try to focus on how Fiji play our own rugby, and then what we can bring to play and then beat the other team. So at the moment we just try to focus on how Fijian playing, and then everything will come into place.
And hello from me, John Inverdale, wherever you're listening in the world, whatever time of day it may be, and welcome to the 10th match of Rugby World Cup 2019, and in many ways far and away the most important, because this is Fiji against Uruguay at the Kamaishi Memorial Recovery Stadium. The ball hits the post, the whistle goes, and every single member of the Uruguayan World Cup squad of 2019 cascades onto the pitch, and there are half a dozen Fiji players out on their feet with their heads bowed. There is no prouder rugby nation in the world than Fiji, not New Zealand, not Wales, not anywhere, and they will be absolutely distraught at a performance that they put in today.
It's a lot of growth. There's a few of the boys in the team. There's a first World Cup as well, especially myself as well. So those kind of big games, like we take opportunities or like a chance, very lightly. But then I think we learned from it when we lost to Uruguay. So I think it's burning still now to the boys. I think it's a good learning from us, and then now we know that we have a good chance to put our name on the map.
Now here comes Randraja. Can he make it count? He's going to give it to Tuisova. Tuisova is going to finish and score the third try.
We have a lot of strength, to be honest. A few of the boys came back from injury, especially myself as well. A few of the boys from France and Japan, so we're coming back together. Now there's eligibility rules as well coming, but we still focus on the same team as the last World Cup, and now we have a Super Rugby team in Rua, so there's a very depth strength there for the coach to pick which team, so it'll be interesting. We want to be top of our group, and then we want to, I think for us, if we go top of our group playing quarter, then it'll be another different story for us. Do you know what I mean? Everyone will buy in. So I think at the moment we sort of like to try to make something different. So we win all the games, and then what happens after then will come.
This is again Randraja now going through, and Fiji here are cutting loose. Up beyond halfway. That's a wonderful step now from Lamani.
Oh my
Lamani
goodness.
gets it back inside to Tuni Yerawa. Can he score? Yes, he can. He stretches out a right paw. That is end-to-end stuff. That is sevens rugby from Fiji here in the 15s. That is textbook Fijian rugby.
So Fiji hoping to write a new chapter in their proud rugby union history. They lead Australia by 12 points to 8 here. There's never been any doubt about the unharnessed raw talent of these Fijians. And it seems, we heard Semi Randraja talk about the different things here, the teams playing in Super Rugby, the eligibility rules. It feels like things have only strengthened the Fijian case in recent years.
Yeah, certainly. And I think that when Fiji play against the Australians, they feel a sense that because some of the Australian players have actually played for Fiji and a Fijian descent, that it almost lifts their game in the way they play as well. So it's almost like if you had to run out against your brother, you'd want to get one over on them, wouldn't you? So it's a type of thing like that. They feel that, do you know what, this is our opportunity to get one over on the big brother, so we can try and do something here. What's going to be crucial in this second half is the replacements coming onto the pitch, how it changes the game. Do you have someone who comes on who can cause a bit of damage when they come onto the pitch, or are you going to have someone who comes on who's just going to basically come on and just do a workman's job? So you need that positivity from the replacements who come on to try and mix things up a bit. I'd be very surprised if Eddie Jones doesn't make some changes very soon. I think he'd be apoplectic, is probably a good word to use, in the change room at half-time. I don't think that he'd be happy with how they've gone. We saw him, he doesn't hold his emotions well, Eddie, and when he comes up on the camera you can see that he's awesome. Sometimes he's throwing things, and sometimes you can just see he's got that look about him that just says, I'm not happy with how things have gone. So I think that there may be changes, if not straight away, there may be changes very shortly into the second half. The try they scored was a good try, and it was quick thinking from them, but what they had to do is, it was a bit of luck involved with it, well, because Fiji just didn't get back and cover that position. So when you look at the game overall, they may have one try, or the only try of the game, and they may have Fiji who've got 4 penalty goals, but the difference is discipline. So the discipline for the Australians has to be much better when they come back out, because they're giving away too many penalties, and they're clearly, when they've been 4 penalties against them, they've been giving penalties away in positions where it's easy enough for the opposition to kick the goals.
Don't forget, you can listen to live commentary from inside the stadiums at every game at this Rugby World Cup in France, wherever you are around the planet, via rugbyworldcup.com and on the official Rugby World Cup 2023 app. You just go within the match centre there and you'll be able to click on the icons to listen to the audio commentary. If you're in the UK, we're also available on BBC 5 Sports Extra. Every game of the tournament available across BBC Radio. Second half to come in Saint-Etienne between Australia and Fiji. A game that has had high jeopardy right from the get-go. Australia, who held the lead in the early stages. Fiji, who came back, and it's been an exemplary performance so far by Simone Kuravoli, the scrum half, who has kicked 4 out of 4 with these attempts at the post. And to be successful in this game, you need the big bruisers up front, but you also need a place kicker in form, and it would appear Fiji have got that.
Yeah, and that what they've chosen to do with Tuivasa, they played him in the midfield at 12 because he's a big bullocking campaigner and runs through, and they move Radradra out to the left wing. And many people would have thought, well, why would you move someone like Semi Radradra out to the wing and where he's going to get possibly less of the ball? But I think it's a great move. I think Tuivasa has been wonderful for them in the midfield. He's run over Gordon a couple of times. He must be having nightmares about him running at him. It must be about 18 stone running at him in the midfield there, up against probably 14. It's a big difference. And then you've got the likes of Radradra out in the wing, though, who's going to get the ball there in really good positions. And then on the other wing, Wenikolo. They've been very good when they've got the ball. The difference is that when they're getting the ball at times, though, it's just being thrown across a bit willy-nilly to them in 7 style, because they're not going through the hands and giving it to the person inside, drawing defenders in from the opposition. If they can fix that and get the ball out wide with players drawing defenders in, Wenikolo and Radradra will get opportunities with no one actually being in front of them. Suck defenders in, work them over, and give them that space to go downfield.
Teams are beginning to re-emerge from the changing room area. We'll be getting restarted very soon here at Saint-Etienne. Fiji leading Australia by 12 points to 8 so far. Yesterday, Samoa beat Chile 43-10. That was in Bordeaux. Wales were 28 points to 8 victors against Portugal in Nice. And Ireland ran in 59 points against Tonga. 59-16 it finished in Nantes in Pool B. Earlier on today, in Bordeaux, South Africa, 76 unanswered points against Romania in Pool B. Here in Saint-Etienne, it's half-time between Australia and Fiji. And the live action isn't over for today, because coming up later on tonight from Nice, 9 o'clock French time, it is England against Japan in what is proving to be a very close Pool D.
Just a very quick one on that South African situation as well. Malcolm Marks, the hooker who's been ruled out of the tournament. Andre Pollard has been brought into the squad for the South Africans. So Pollard, we know plenty about him and how good a player he's been for the South Africans in the past. A different position perhaps, but Andre Pollard will give them plenty of experience there in the back line.
The teams are back out. We are ready to get restarted. Fiji in white with the black shorts and the white socks will play from left to right as we look down in the second period. Australia in their gold and green are going to receive the ball from the kickoff here. No changes in personnel over the break. The one try of the game from Mark Nwanga Nitawaze. He created it, he finished it. Quick thinking from the fleet-footed runner. And now we get back started again with Teti Tella. Drop kick on the halfway line. It'll come down inside the Australian 22. It's caught by Carter Gordon. 9th cap for the Melbourne Rebels player. Tall fly half who's been likened in style to Stephen Larkham, famous Wallaby in the past. As Ben Donaldson kicks away from inside the 22, and it goes out for a Fijian line out midway inside their opponent's territory.
And he's the man who's been quiet in the first half, Ben Donaldson, but he didn't get any opportunities. Such was the way the game was played. He didn't really get a chance to inject himself into the back line, so I'm sure he'll be looking to get a bit more ball in the second half, will the Wallabies fullback.
Samuel Matavesi's throw is exemplary, really good, received by Asoena Silesile. And Fiji tried to come forward through a central location. Big hit comes in on Lavani Bottia, who's an enormous man, and takes 2 or 3 to stop him. Now it's Wainivolo. Nice little jinking run, tried to release it out to Droasese, and the ball spills from an arm and it trickles out of play, and the knockout will mean scrum to the Wallabies just outside their own 22.
And that's one of those things I've spoke about at half-time, is what you want to do. Instead of just going wide like that, the opposition defence will just shepherd you towards the sideline. So if you've got 3 players in a 10-metre area towards the sideline, one of those players has to drop back inside. You had 3 or 4 players there, and you had the left winger out there in Radradra, who's right on the sideline. One of them has to chop back inside and change the direction.
Australia have only lost their second pool game of a World Cup twice in their history. In 2011 they were beaten by Ireland at Eden Park. 4 years ago in Japan, Australia were beaten by Wales. Both those defeats were narrow. 9 points in Auckland, 4 points in Tokyo. Just a delay in play here while players on both teams are receiving treatment, particularly Chuta Vainivolo, the number 14, the wing for Fiji, who's got 2 physios working on him, and he's now slowly getting back up to his feet.
Yeah, he's okay by the looks of things, but he looks a bit ginger on that foot there, so we'll watch him with interest over the coming minutes. That'd be a great blow if they lost him, because he's very big and powerful out there, and he does look like he's in a bit of trouble. And if you look at the body language, it doesn't look like he's going to last much longer, judging by the way he's running.
He's going to have to go. So an enforced change for Fiji. We've not had many setbacks today, but Vinia Habusi is going to come on, the number 23, to take the place of Chuta Vainivolo on the right wing for Fiji.
Doesn't get any easier, does it, too? You have another big man coming on, and just saw what happened. Like, he actually got his foot, his left ankle got caught underneath the tackler when there were 2 or 3 players coming in, and he just bent it underneath and just strained it. So it's a painful thing to happen. I've had it happen to me before, and there's not a great deal you can do about it. It really hurts. And then what will happen now is it'll swell up, and they'll have to put the ice onto it to make sure they can keep that swelling down. So, very much a disappointment there early in the second half for the Fijians, and Vanikolo off the field, a big player for them.
So line out chosen by Australia. They win it towards the rear. Nick Frost holding on to possession. Good push for the Fijians as they try to force the Wallabies deeper into their own 22. And no sign of the ball coming out quickly for the Wallabies here. Nick White trying to direct things in front of him. Gets it, kicks forward, goes for distance. Comes down for Semi Radradra, who gathers near the halfway line. Fijian possession once again. Fiji, who lead Australia by 12 points to 8 in what's turning into be a bit of a classic here for the Pacific Islanders, and they hope that this could be a day that goes down in the annals for them. The kick on by the scrum half Kuravoli comes down near the edge of the 22, and it's fallen very fortunately for Matavesi. The hooker's away! He scores Fiji's first try of the game! Some good fortune for the ball to fall into his grasp, but once he could see the try line, wild horses were not going to stop him. He powers over to bring the biggest Fijian cheer of the day so far. Saint-Etienne is ready for a big story here. It is Australia 8, Fiji 17, with the conversion to come.
And one of Fiji's greatest players, especially in sevens, Waiseli Serevi, was in the crowd. He's in the crowd and he was jumping for joy, but that was just a lack of communication there between the Australian fly half Carter Gordon and Nwangani Tuazi. And in the end, Matavesi just picks the ball up, no one in front of him, and he showed a good turn of speed in that 25 metres to get there.
Joshua Tuisova, the centre, the player who claims the try on his 24th cap. Conversion to come. Chance for Fiji to put daylight between themselves and the Wallabies on the scoreboard. 4 successful kicks out of 4 for Kuravoli. This is out by the sideline left-hand side. It's just outside the 22. Going through his routine. Nwanganawazi comes out to try and charge him down. The kick goes towards the post and goes through the post. What a kicking performance from Simone Kuravoli. 5 successful kicks out of 5. And he stretches the points on the scoreboard. Tuisova's try gets the full treatment now. Australia 8, Fiji 19.
And that was just a complete lack of communication. They brought that man into the game, Tuisova. We talked about him at half-time and about the fact that they brought him in as a bit of a battering ram and to move Radradra out wide, and he's done his job scoring a try.
It's his 11th try in international test rugby. It is an absolutely priceless one for Fiji, and what they are increasingly believing might become a famous day. Australia are still, though, within touching distance. Converted try and a penalty needed. Here's a charge down as Richard Arnold from an offside position tried to block a kick, and he's pinged by the referee. Arnold in an offside position when he blocked the kick, and that will be a penalty to Fiji.
Well, he has arms the size of a giraffe, doesn't he? So you're certainly going to get there with the ball and put some pressure on, but he was in that offside position to start with. Like, he probably would have got there even if he wasn't in the offside position, if he kept himself back. So you need a bit of luck in these big games, and Fiji have got just that.
Teller's kick finds its touch, no great distance on it. It's going to be a line out to Fiji, 10-metre line inside their own half. Another of the Fijians in need of treatment down there in what is a bruising physical encounter. We've played 5 minutes in the second half at Saint-Etienne. The player receiving treatment is Simone Kuravoli, who's been so successful with the kicks. They certainly won't want any injury to him.
No, I think he's got cramp.
Okay, we good?
He's got cramp, and it's early in the second half. You don't want to be getting cramp early in the second half because it ain't going to get any better.
Set up offside.
Very, very difficult. If you start getting cramp, it will not improve, and there's a long way to go in this game. We've got 35 minutes or so left in this match, so you don't want that to be happening to your star player.
Yeah, the way he's been kicking, they want to keep him. It's a miscue at the line out for Fiji. They give away possession. Turnover Australia. Nick White throws it back to James Slipper. The 34-year-old into contact. 10 metres line inside the Fijian half. Nice little drop of a shoulder from Carter Gordon to skip past one tackler, and now a kick ahead by Jordan Pataya will land and bounce inside the Fijian 22 and right over the dead ball line. It's a very narrow try-scoring area at this stadium, and the ball didn't have long to travel, and Pataya's kick overstruck. 22 drop out to Fiji.
Yeah, that's been an area that the Wallabies haven't been great at, putting the ball over that dead ball line. You have to be careful to make sure you try and keep it in play. Just too much on it from Pataya, but we've spoken about this Fijian line-out. There were 3 line-outs just before half-time. They lost 2 of them. They won the 3rd one, and they ended up turning the ball over. They've lost another one there at the beginning of this second half. A big area of concern for Simon Rawalui is those line-outs, and they've lost the man who just went down with cramp a moment or 2 ago, who's their star goal kicker as well. Kuravoli is being replaced by Lamani. So Frank Lamani coming on. Big cheer for the man going off and Simone Kuravoli, but that's a very, very disappointing end for him because his goal kicking and general play has been at the forefront of what the Fijians have done well.
This is something of a plot twist in Saint-Etienne. Fiji still leading Australia 19 points to 8, but the man who's delivered almost all of the Fijian points has been forced off. Simone Kuravoli. They've got 2 weeks till the next game. Fiji, they'll hope that he's back in contention for that. But in the here and the now, the pressure now moves onto the shoulders of Frank Lamani, who comes in at scrum half, and they're going to need a new kicker at goal too. Yeah, does this change the narrative for Australia?
Yeah, that's the key. So Lamani is going to have to start quick and get into the game. He's all of a sudden been told, right, you're in the game, you've got 2 minutes, you get up, you're on, and you're straight into it. He needs a good play first up.
Good scrum from Fiji. There's going to be a penalty. Congratulations and pats on the back for the front row of Maui, Matavesi and Dangi, as they were able to school the Wallabies there and turn a scrum into a penalty, and it's a chance for Fiji to move down and establish themselves back inside the Wallaby half. Teller, right-footed kick, up over the halfway line, goes out and finds his touch round about the 10-metre line inside the Wallabies half. It will be a Fijian line-out in their opponent's territory.
Now, if they lose this line-out, there is all sorts of trouble because they are really struggling with those calls, and the Wallabies are counteracting them and getting the ball numerous times. So this is a pressure line-out throw.
Matavesi to take it, full line-up in the line-out, and it's thrown to Nasilasila, who gathers it towards the front of the line. Matavesi will take it on a charge. It spills from his gap, but it's not a knock-on. Australia were offside in defence. Penalty to Fiji, who are edging their way slowly closer and closer to the Australians' try line.
And it was Lamani who put the ball down when he was in a very good position. Now,
It's called. Okay, he has to hold the 10.
players have been spoken to. The referee's talking and explaining what's happening, and they're going to go for the 3 points, Fiji. So it looks like Lamani, who's come on, is going to take over those goal-kicking duties. And we had 4 from 4 in that first half as far as penalties, goals from Kuruvoli, and then he picked up a conversion of that Tuivasa try. So a little bit of pressure on there. All of a sudden, when you come on to replace the man who's been kicking the goals, and you've been sitting on the sideline 5 minutes ago, wondering whether you're going to get onto the pitch at all, and all of a sudden, you're there with an opportunity to extend the lead from 11 points out to 14, which would be 2 converted tries.
Rob Valentini, the Australian number 8, was the player who gave away this penalty. Frank Lomani's first kick at goal since coming on as a replacement. Shot clock trickling down into the final 10 seconds. Lomani's kick misses the target. New kicker, new outcome. For the first time in the game, Fiji have missed a kick, and we get to see a close-up of Kuruvoli, who's looking onto the sidelines, and no surprise, a big grimace on his face.
Well, he hit it well. He just didn't start it far enough out to the right. He had a bit of a hook on it. Just a bit of draw, a bit like a golf shot when you draw one around from right to left there if you're a right-hander, and that's what he did, but he didn't start it far enough across to the right-hand side of the post, and it just drifted past the left-hand upright. Changes for the Wallabies as well. Carter Gordon is off the pitch and replaced for the Australian team 10 minutes into the second half.
Sully Vunivalu comes on, played 10 rugby league tests for Fiji in the past. Now he is in Wallaby colours up against the country of his birth. Gordon, who's been made uncomfortable throughout by the physicality of the Fijian performance, is replaced inside 50 minutes. Nwanganitawase gathers, met by a firm hit, but he holds on to possession. Australia have it midway inside their own half. Valentini brings it forward, lays it back for Nick White, the scrum half.
And use it. Stay.
Right-footed kick from White. It's gone for height. Comes down inside the Fijian half. Good battle for it with Vunivalu, who just come on, jumping with Randrada. Fiji regained possession. Into contact goes Lavare Bottia. Presents it back cleanly for Lavare near the halfway line. This is left-hand side of the pitch as Fiji come forward. Lavare opts to kick himself. Comes down on the edge of the Australian 22. Fielded by Ben Donaldson. Gives it infield to Mark Nwanganitawase. His long kick goes all the way down the other end of the field into the Fijian 22. Tetitela gathers, throws it to his right-hand side, and then a Fijian kick from the fullback. Drohasisi finds its touch, and Fiji move back into Wallaby territory once again. Australia 8, Fiji 19 in Saint Etienne.
It's a patient passage of play there from both teams as well, especially the Fijians. They just made those tackles, they got the ball, and when they were stumped inside their 22, they didn't try and go for that big play. They just found the sideline, just calmed things down a little bit. And when you're 11 points in front, the scoreboard pressure, the further this game goes on, it is going to count against the Wallabies with that scoreboard pressure. So I'll be very interested to see as we get to around the 60-minute mark, if it stays like this, will they make more changes? I suspect they will.
Fiji have replaced their entire front row here. Straight into the thick of the action is Peri Ravai, the prop making his 56th cap. Good experience to be bringing on at this stage of the game. Niataleu, the captain, to the edge of the Australian 22. Fiji hoping that they've a few more gears to go through here to really press down the foot and the throat of the Wallabies in Saint Etienne. Fiji leading. Tella throws to his left to Tuisova. Score of the try, but he's not played a good pass here. Flashes in front of his teammates. Out it goes.
Well, he's saying it was touched.
Yeah.
I think he's saying it was touched there, Andrew Brace. So I'm just wondering.
Tackle wasn't complete, Sevens.
It sounded like he was saying the ball was touched, but regardless of that, the replacements which have come on for Fiji are just battering through that Australian line. But I must say that we've spoken about it, the passing. You don't need to go for that long pass there. It's on. You've got numbers. You've got 4 on 2. you don't need to go for that long pass over the top. It's just a case of putting the ball through. He has to straighten up and put the ball through the hands. You straighten the defence up, all of a sudden the ball goes through the hands and you've got numbers because you are drawing the winger in, and Nwanga Nituazi would have come in and had to make the tackle, and all of a sudden you've got Radradra who's down that sideline there and has space. So those type of passes from a Fijian point of view aren't necessary.
It's been an intriguing afternoon in Saint Etienne. You cannot take your eyes, your ears off this. Australia 8, Fiji 19, and the Wallabies under almost incessant pressure. Line out to Australia inside their own 22. David Porecki, who's had to assume the captaincy responsibilities. You were telling me earlier on, Tulsa, that the number of different captains Australia have had to have in recent games is incredible.
6 in the last 7. It's the most amount since 1905. That tells you something, doesn't it?
It just shows, leadership's so important in rugby. It's a revolving door for that skipper's armband for Australia at the moment as they tried to run from deep. Ben Donaldson, that's a good throw for Koribete, who then is kicking it ahead from Tevides inside Fijian territory, puts too much on it. It goes through the try line, over the dead ball line, and goes out, which means Fiji can bring it all the way back close to the halfway line once again.
Yeah, I've no problem though with that though, because as the ball goes out to I think it's Vunivalu there, he just knocks it back inside. I can see what he's trying to do. He's trying to kick the ball back inside for the players who are coming through in the middle. There's no problem at all with the tackle. The tackle was made as the player kicked the ball. He tries to put it back across for players coming through the middle. Unfortunately though, he just skews it a little bit and it goes way over the dead ball line, so we come right back to near the halfway line and we have a scrum in that position there. So Fiji, the luck is going their way. Now the Wallabies will get a bit of luck in this last 27 minutes. It's a case of how they use it and turn that into points.
It will be a scrum for Fiji on the halfway line. Fiji, who've never beaten Australia at a Rugby World Cup, haven't beaten them since 1954 in any competition. Are they on the cusp of glory here? Australia 8, Fiji 19. Scrum collapses in the front row and will have to be reset.
Guys,
well, the scrums have taken, I must say, during this Rugby World Cup so far, most things have been quite quick. The scrums in this game have taken a bit of time. So there are some big units out there who are trying to collide with each other in the scrum, and it's just taken a long time. And Andrew Brace, in fairness, he's doing his best. He's putting players in position. He's speaking to them and communicating with them. And that's all you can ask. And if players don't do that, then he will penalise them, or he'll give free kicks away. There's a few laughs and grins out there from the two scrum halves because they're just trying to get this game going. But the players eventually are going to lock horns and we're going to get the scrum underway. But you think about the amount of time we're losing there in those scrum situations.
We've almost played quarter hour of game time in the second half. Fiji win the scrum. Lamani throws it out. That's good delivery as they stretch it now. Nietalevu, a kick into the 22. Backpedaling for Australia is Vunivalu, and under pressure he tries to run it out for the try line. He's met by 3, but it's going to come back for an earlier infringement in the pursuit of the kick there. One of the Fijian players was offside, and that will be a penalty to Australia midway inside their own territory.
I do think it was a bit of a strange situation though from what the Fijians did, because they're getting the ball and they're just all drifting across to the sideline. It's almost like they're now worried about being in front by 11 points and they're looking at just trying to keep the Wallabies down in their end of the pitch. They've got to play with an aggressive attitude and they've got to go for more tries if they're to really close this game out.
Yes, Australia will be digging deep into their banks of reserves now. So much experience as a top-tier nation, and they know with millions of eyeballs tuning in back home, Australia have got to dig deep here for national pride. Australia 8, Fiji 19. We see a concerned face of Eddie Jones pop up on our monitor inside the stadium here in Saint Etienne. The line out from Australia is good. Edge of the Fijian 22. Fiji, who've applied most of the pressure in this game, now have to see if they have some defensive answers. Porecki releases it back to Nick White. He throws infield. Samu Kurevi. Heavy traffic in there, but it's recycled back to Nick Frost. Frost is met by Nietalevu. Good defensive tackling from Fiji, who sniff a turnover. However, in their enthusiasm to try and get the ball, it is knocked forward. And that is going to be a scrum.
To pick it up, you've lost it on.
Scrum to Australia. Fiji, in their attempts to pick it up, as you can hear from Andrew Brace, knocking the ball on.
And I think he's talking about Randradra there, who's gone in for the ball. Yeah, he's saying Randradra has gone in and touched the ball and then was taken out of it and over the opposition side. So Randradra is complaining that he was taken illegally, but the referee Andrew Brace is saying that he's tried to take the ball and he's knocked it forward. So from there, when they played on, it was a knock on first. It will be an Australian scrum.
Okay, a couple of changes coming for the Wallabies here. They're going to replace a prop and the scrum half. Isaac finds Lilawaza is about to come on, the Western Force scrum half. He'll replace Nick White. And into the front row comes Zane Ngongor, who will replace the very experienced James Slipper. And you can sense the new energy that Fiji have brought into their front row, and Australia have got to respond.
Yeah, changes though can go one way or the other. They can really empower you and make you a much better team, or it can create mass confusion because people come on there with mixed messages about what they want to do, and others are out there who are getting fatigued, don't get those messages. So it's quite difficult when substitutes come on. They have to be in there and make an impact straight away, get their confidence up and really work themselves into the game, because you don't have time to sit back and work your way into it. It's a case of make an impact straight away and come up with the points. And for the Wallabies, when you're 11 points down and you know you're chasing the game, you've sometimes got to throw caution to the wind and do something a little bit different.
Fiji, who felt hard done by a week ago in their narrow defeat against Wales, hoping that this is now the opportunity to put things right and to get their opening win of this Rugby World Cup. 56 and a half minutes of the stadium clock. Finsley Awezia, the new scrum half, prepares for the put-in. Central location, the scrum, which will present options on both sides for the Wallabies, as long as they can secure possession here. The front rows hold firm. Australia decide to attack down the left-hand side. Donaldson coming in to join the line with Nwongo Nitawaze. Now a straightening up and recentraling as Nick Frost attacks the 22 and bundles into that area now. Australia, who've not had much possession in the game in their opponent's 22. But the replacements have come on, have given fresh ideas here. Big hit comes in on Korombete. Australia do well not to lose the ball. They're just inside the Fijian 22. Ball spills from the arms, but it's not a knock-on. Korombete involved again to 12 metres out. Can Australia get their second try of the game? Can they narrow the deficit on the scoreboard? Nick Frost barrels forward to earn an extra hard yard. Australia moving closer to the goalpost now. David Parecki, 6 metres out. Penalty. Fiji, though, will bring that Australia attack to an end. It's just not happening for Eddie Jones.
Now, I think that one there is for what referees spoke about prior to this Rugby World Cup, about when you go down the extra roll forward, they don't want to see players go with the extra roll, and I think that's exactly what happened there. The defence of Fiji was mammoth. They held on, they covered on the inside, they did everything they needed to do. Wonderful work there. Donga got knocked out of the way. I actually thought he might have picked up a head injury. I think he was actually just exhausted there at that point from covering across. So it's a penalty for Fiji. They get to clear their lines. Now the big question is, can they contain possession when it comes to the line-out, which has been a funny area enough for them.
Well, the penalty kick finds its touch. Levani Botia is in need of some treatment. He's nursing a facial injury inside the 5 metre line for Fiji. More changes have come on for Australia, including Rob Leota. And just hearing that there's going to be a head injury assessment here. And Masaki Donga, you mentioned that he was down a moment ago. He goes off. So that was a Herculean effort by Fiji in defence, but they've picked up a few knocks as punishment for it.
Yeah, Donga, I think it was Korombete who ran into him, and he's a big man, and Korombete's a big man as well. Just got his head into a bad position, and I saw him on the ground and I thought he had that issue there, but then he got up and moved away. But it is the correct decision to take him off, because he did look like he was in a bit of distress. So here we go, Fiji. We've got around 21 minutes or so left in this game, and it is the Fijians who have the throw-in around 40 metres out or so from their own line. The pressure is on because they've really struggled to hold on to the ball.
Now, Botia may not be able to continue here. Fiji are preparing Albert Tuisui, and he will come on into the back row in place of Lavani Bottia, who really put his body on the line there in terms of defending. And such bravery from these enormous Fijian players. They believe they're on the cusp of a very famous victory here in Saint Etienne, and they're going to give everything to try and secure it. The kick away from Frank Lomari seemed to alter in the air. It may have connected with the wire of the spider cam in the stadium there. The kick that didn't get the distance it was going to. There's then a knock-on by a Fijian player, which will present Australia with a scrum on the halfway line.
Yeah, it did hit the wire of the spider cam. It only just missed the camera, so that's what changed the trajectory of the ball. In the end, it becomes an Australian put in from a knock-on, the referee said there, but it did hit that wire as it came down and changed direction.
So Luke Tanguy's back on in the front row, replacing Maseke Donga, who had come on but has had to leave the field for a head injury assessment. So it's Ravia, it is Ikanivera, and it is Tanguy in the front row for Fiji. Australia 8, Fiji 19. We have played an hour of game time in Saint Etienne. There are 20 minutes left for Australia to try and turn this around, trailing 19 points to 8. Australian put in.
It's an absolute cracker, isn't it? I'm absolutely enjoying this game so much. It's wonderful.
Great scrum from Australia there, the best we've seen of them from a set piece. They have twirled Fiji backwards, and it's a penalty to Fiji on the halfway line.
And do you remember what I said before about substitutions making a difference? That's the key. You have substitutes that come on, you have guys who come on, they've got to get straight into it, they've got to work their socks off straight away, and it can be difficult coming on as a substitute. You need to get into the flow of the game, you need to get up to speed straight away, and it can be difficult if you're not in a position where you're used to coming on in such a pressured situation as a replacement.
So 11 points between them. Australia would need a converted try and 2 penalties to regain a lead that they did hold early in this contest. Australia 8, Fiji 19. Good Australian line out on the edge of the Fijian 22. Richard Arnold gathered the ball. And Gore's a bit isolated as he tries to hand it backwards. Fiji are going to get a penalty. He was isolated. He wasn't able to release. And that's celebrated by Fiji as if they had just scored themselves. Great endeavour by Thiriki Daveta. It is a penalty to Fiji and a chance to clear their lines again. And Australia are finding it so difficult to pierce this Fijian rearguard.
Yeah, it was Korobete who tried to get in there and take the ball. He was by himself. And Thiriki Daveta did ever so well to stay on his feet, to try and pinch the ball. The referee saw him trying to make the effort. They held onto the ball, the Wallabies, and it is a Fijian penalty on their own 22.
David Parecki's been replaced to the front row by Jordan Weleshi, the Melbourne Rebels hooker. And Fiji have got a line out, having kicked the ball out just short of the 10-metre line inside their own half. Ikanivera to take the throw to a shortened line. Oh, it's misjudged. He sent it over everyone. Australia turn over possession. Well won back by Waleshi there, who's just come onto the field. Donaldson throws to his right-hand side to Kerevi. Australia close to the edge of the Fijian 22. There's a high tackle. Penalty to Australia, no time to waste.
Yeah, I think the player was falling down though when that tackle was made. It was certainly looked higher from our position up here. They're going to have a look at it, but I think the player was falling at the same time.
Andrew Brace is calling over the captain, Natayalevu.
It's certainly a high hit. It's Tuasova. I think you'll find he's come over the top there.
It is just a penalty. He slipped up high. That's the third one. I spoke to you in the first half, and it's the second one by him. Okay, we need lower tackles, please. Thank you.
So you can hear the explanation from the referee there, saying that it's twice now that Tuisova has committed a high tackle. We'll take that to be a final warning for him, but also collectively as a team, Fiji have got to be more careful in that regard. Ben Donaldson takes the penalty kick and kicks Australia into the 22. Line out for the Wallabies, who are hoping they can muster an epic comeback here. They need it.
Big play coming up here as well. This is a situation, there's still 17 and a half minutes to go, but the Wallabies need to come up with something very soon.
Line out is received by Nick Frost. Very good work from him on his 17th cap. Now, can Australia get some forward propulsion? Fiji pushing back against them. A maul 10 metres out from the Fijian line. Australia now trying to recycle this back. It's released out through Karevi. He's met by more very intense Fijian defence, and they turn it over for a penalty. Fiji are coming up with the answer to every question Australia throw at them.
They're defending stoutly, but they've got to make sure that they don't try and close the game down. There is too long to go. I've just felt over this last 5 or 6 minutes that Fiji, when they've got the ball, they're almost trying to slow the game down. They need to speed the game up. The way of winning this game is to speed things up. I know it sounds difficult because you're getting fatigued at this point of the game, but they have to play to their strengths. They have to take the ball down, they've got to play to their midfield, and they've got to bring players back inside and keep the ball tight and make sure they've got players working there, getting towards the ruck. If they get isolated, then they're in trouble. Their fans are worried about how they're going to continue at the end of this game, because they've never been in this position against the Wallabies before. They want to win, but they don't know exactly what they're going to do it.
If you're just joining our coverage around the world on Rugby World Cup Radio or on BBC Radio 5 Sports Extra, it is Australia 8, Fiji 19, and we have quite the scenario brewing here. Penalty to Fiji near the 10-metre line inside their own half. And Australia are growing increasingly frustrated here. Richard Arnold, the player giving away the penalty. Australia, who were hoping to encamp themselves inside the Fiji at 22 and maybe get a second try of the game, now must turn and haul their weary bodies backwards as Fiji's penalty finds its touch on the far side, and Fiji return to Wallaby territory with the line out on the far side.
I know we spoke about this game on the way to the stadium and how big it's going to be, but it's turning out even better than any of us could have thought, because this is turning into an absolute classic. Fiji are on the cusp of doing something great. If they get another score, it could be curtains for Australia.
Australia need to react here as Fiji win the line out. No evidence of fatigue for the Pacific Islanders. Knock on though by Nathaya Levu as the ball was lashed at him. A very powerful throw from Lamani.
No, it's your penalty.
There has been a head injury for a player down on the pitch. Attention will come on for the Australians. Andrew Brace just stops the clock and we all take a breather in what is a very intense atmosphere.
I know, it's your penalty.
It's a penalty to Fiji, which had to be established there by Nathaya Levu, who was complaining about it until he realised he was the recipient of it.
Now there's the interesting thing about where the penalty is. If it's in that position around where Andrew Brace is standing, then the man who came on, Lamani, is going to have a kick to put it out to a 2-try converted tries difference in the game. So that would be 22-8. And from that position, it's going to be very difficult for Australia to get back into it. Now, this is going to be interesting to see where it is. A head injury, so we've taken some time here. But Fiji have looked like a very strong team in this game in the early stages. But what they've got to do is they've got to finish the game strong. They've got to make sure that when they come through at the back end of this game, they keep continuing to do the same things which have got them to where they are now. You slow the game up, you slow the game up at your own peril.
It's going to be the penalty as to take off the ball.
One try apiece. Successful kicks of Fiji well in front. And we are waiting for play to get back started here. Matt Phillip, who was the late addition to the bench today after Will Skelton withdrew, the Australian captain, before the game. Phillip has come on. He'll replace Richard Arnold in the second row. Penalty to Fiji, and it's no great surprise, as you predicted, Tulsa. They're going to go for the post and try to stretch this out beyond the 14 points that Australia would get from 2 converted tries. This is a big moment in the game, and remember, Lamani, who came on, his first attempt to the post, he missed.
And he'll be using up pretty much every moment he's got on that shot clock, you would think. Take your time, nail the kick. If you miss it, you get the ball back. But from here, he's right in front, he's 33 metres out. He really should make sure of this one.
Tense moment. Hush inside the stadium in Saint-Etienne. Lamani hoping to land his personal first successful kick of the day. Swings his boot through the ball and it sails over the post. That feels a huge moment now. The Fijians stretch their tally to 22. It's Australia 8, Fiji 22, and we might be witnessing some Rugby World Cup history here at Saint-Etienne.
Eddie Jones was in charge of Japan in 2015 in Brighton when they managed to beat South Africa right near the end. He might be on the receiving end this time of a rather large shock. Maybe not a shock as big as that one, but a shock nonetheless, and it's going to blow this group, if it stays as it is, wide open, with Wales to come for the Wallabies still.
Lalakai Fekete has come on in the centre for Australia, his 12th cap. He replaces Samu Karevi. Fiji have brought on Timu Mayanavuana. Possession for Fiji, midway inside their own half. Lamari, who'll be feeling much better now, having landed that second attempted goal for him. And Australia need to react. Here is Mark Nwanganitawaze, 10 metres inside his own half, supported by Angus Bell alongside him. Australia have got possession, but they need to get it down the other end. Nick Frost, who's been joined by Matt Phillip in the second row, presents it back. Donaldson steps into the fly half position. He's got Pataya on his right-hand side. Nice run by Pataya. Skips away from 2 tackles. Then is stopped short to the halfway line. Finns Leliwaza kicks forward. It comes down to the edge of the Fijian 22, and it's gathered by Drohasese. Fiji have possession, but they're penalised. Penalty within range for Australia, but Australia need tries.
They need tries. There's no way in the world they're going for penalties now, and it was the correct decision. Player caught on the ground, no other player getting there with them. Didn't try to release the ball. Australia jackling at it, they get the penalty, and now they've got the chance to put some pressure on. Now here's an interesting one. If they come up with a 7-point try here and they get the conversion, what a finish we'd have to look forward to.
Almost 42,000 inside the stadium. Will they be telling people of the future that they were there the day Fiji beat the Wallabies at a Rugby World Cup? Concerned expressions on the faces of Australian fans. Fijians beginning to dare to dream. Neutral French who've certainly been backing up the Pacific Islanders.
Well, I was in Kamaishi when Uruguay beat Fiji in 2019 at the Rugby World Cup in Japan. This time it might be their turn to get themselves a bit of a shock over on the opposition instead of being on the receiving end.
Replacement in the centre for Fiji. Joshua Tuisova has been replaced by Vilamoni Potitu. Line out for Australia. Throw in by Waleshi is good. Wallabies have got some forward momentum here. They tried to edge closer to the 5-metre line. They're about 8-9 metres out here. Right of centre as Australia come forward. There's an advantage coming Australia's way. Fiji under pressure here. Chance of a burst towards the line. Australia are in. It's a try. A try for Australia that opens the door of opportunity once again. This game is not over yet. They have something to chase now. And the try scored by Vunivalu is a very important moment for the Wallabies. 13-22 with the conversion to come. Hold on to your French berets. This could be very exciting now.
And I talked about Australian goal kicking being one of their problems. Well, Ben Donaldson, step up, because this is something you need to do and make sure that you give yourself an opportunity of at least getting a draw out of this game. Wonderful work there from Suli Vunivalu to score the try.
Conversion is very important now. If Ben Donaldson can land this, it would put Australia within 7 points of the lead. They would need one more converted try to level things up, but he's got to make this kick. Donaldson just outside the 22, right of centre. Enormous pressure on his broad shoulders. 2 tries against Georgia last week. Here he comes, sends the kick towards the post, and it's good. Australia move up to 15, and now we're going to see what they're made of. Game on in Saint-Etienne in what is turning into a thriller.
An absolute belter of a game. Now, what do you do if you're Fiji and you get down the other end? Do you look all of a sudden going, well, let's change our plan and go for a drop goal? Do you look at that, or do you think to yourself, we'll go for the try and see if we can get a 5-pointer and put this game beyond reach? So many questions, and it'll be answered in the next 10 minutes or so.
The restart from Fiji. Teller's kick comes down inside the Australian 22. Caught by Ben Donaldson, who returns an enormous kick deep into Fijian territory. There was a moment when Trahasisi thought about taking a quick one, but then he thought the better of it. Line out to Fiji, 10 metres inside their own half. We are into the final 10 minutes of game time now.
Well, great work from Maraka Koroibete then, because he's put the pressure on to make sure they can't take the quick one. Now here's the issue, their lineouts haven't been great. They've lost 4 lineouts of their 17 that they've had. The Wallabies haven't lost 1. They've stolen 4, they may well do it again.
Ball goes back out of play. It'll be same again, line out Fiji,
but they did
just inside their own half.
They did steal at the Wallabies there, so that's another lost line out as far as the stats go for the Fijians. So they are under all sorts of pressure when it comes to line out ball. And here we go again, another 5 metres or so further back, but the pressure's on with these line outs.
Line out will be taken by Ikanivere towards the rear of the line, won back by the Wallabies, who have suddenly found a second wind here. Nick Frost stretching up his tall right arm to flick it back on the Australian side. Valetini takes it forward towards the halfway line. Now this is where Australia need a game plan, they need cool heads, and they need to execute. Finns, Iweza kicks it forward, comes down inside the Fijian half, but it bounces off the chest of Fenaya Habosi. A knock-on means advantage Australia, but they have possession anyway, and Valenti will break well beyond the gain line, and now they're knocking on the door of the 22. Nick Frost bulldozes us in. This has been an excellent reaction from Australia, who are dragging themselves back into contention here. It's the replacement prop, Ngongur, who produces it back inside the 22. Valentini involved for a second time in the move. Australia still have it. Donaldson down the right, tries to throw it to Faketi. He's held up. Penalty Fiji. That's a huge moment.
It's a huge moment, but it's something I don't know if they want. It's a penalty to get them downfield, but their line-out has been atrocious in the last 15 minutes or so. They currently lost 5 of their line-outs compared to 13 they won. They're almost averaging up to the point where they're losing half their line-outs in this match. They need to be at a point where they get the ball in hand. They're going to go for the line out around the halfway line, but they're going to have to come up with something different, because it's been pilfered at every point here by the Wallabies line out. That's been the key to this game so far as Fiji go. If they hold the ball from the line out, they're looking much stronger. The Wallabies are getting more possession because they're getting the ball from that line out position.
Australia 15, Fiji 22. And a line out to the Fijians on the halfway line. Fiji, who have not beaten the Wallabies since 1954. One converted try for Australia could change everything. Line out was a bit scrappy. Tom Hooper with the orange cap gathers it for Australia. Donaldson, it's all better now from the Wallabies. Koroibete to the edge of the 22. Excellent tackle by Neata Levu, who really needed to make that. And as they came over the top of the breakdown, Australia are punished. Penalty Fiji, a chance to clear away again.
I thought the question might have been asked about the tackle that was made by the fullback, Driasesi. Wasn't sure whether he actually wrapped his arms around as Koroibete went into him. In the end, though, it's Fiji who get the penalties. But do you know what, Connor? As they get these penalties and the ball's coming up towards the halfway line, they're not winning the lineouts. Now, a lot of the Wallabies players are pointing to the screen and pointing about that tackle there from Driasesi. And they're saying, well, why was he allowed to get away with that? He was probably in a falling position, and the referee's allowed to play on. But it's going to be a line-out for Fiji. They're 5 minutes inside their own half, and they have to win one. It's as simple as that.
So here we go. 6 minutes of game time remaining in Saint-Etienne. Evening beginning to draw in over the stadium. An electric atmosphere. Over 40,000 people in here, and no one can take their eyes off this. Fiji win the line out. They propel themselves up over the halfway line. It's a throw across the field that's a bit sloppy. Australia sniffing a turnover. Good endeavour by Ben Donaldson, but he can't get his hands on the ball. Fiji have lost 15 metres there, but they hold on to possession. Australia 15, Fiji 22. Lamani, the replacement scrum half, kicks it high, swirling through the air. comes down just short of the Australian 22, fielded by Moriki Korembete. His long kick comes back into the 22 down the other end. Two Fijians collided. They clashed heads with each other, but the ball crucially was not dropped, and the long kick goes back into Wallabies territory again, where Mark Nwanganitawase returns it, and it's kicking tennis at the moment. This time Dronasisi does find his touch. Donaldson gathers and takes the quick line out. It's absolutely frantic in Saint-Etienne, a game that has turned into an epic. Petaya's kick forward. Great positioning by Rendrada. He returns the latest high booming kick, long and searching into the Wallabies 22. Donaldson will return it. No one's going for touch here. They're just kicking possession from one end of the field to the other. Here's the latest kick. Drodra Hassisi, long into the Wallabies 22. Caught by Korobete. He kicks from outside the 22, straight down the centre of the field again. This is like Wimbledon, Tulsa Tullis.
They don't want to put the ball out, Fiji. They want to keep the ball in play. They want to keep the ball in play. It's gone out eventually. What the Wallabies are hoping that Fiji would put the ball out and there'd be a line out. That's what they wanted the ball. But Fiji won't do that.
It did go out of play, and it was a quickly taken line out by Mark Nwanganitawase. Australia tried to run it from deep. They went across the field from left to right, but under this intense, energetic Fijian pressure, they found it difficult to get out. It was kicked for a line out to Fiji, 10 metres inside the Wallabies half. Fiji hoping to beat Australia at a Rugby World Cup for the very first time.
Well, I'm not a fan of the kick tennis, but that was actually quite interesting because of the dynamics of the game. Because there's 3.5 minutes left, it was a case of who blinked first. They were both at it.
Ikaravere's throw, it's not the cleanest of his life, but it'll do the job. Fiji hold on to possession. Advantage in their favour for a knock-on means a scrum to Fiji just inside Australian territory. Eddie Jones will be putting what's left of his hair out here looking on. Australia need to get it down the other end, but now they are massively running out of time. 3 minutes of game time remain in Saint-Etienne. Australia need a converted try here to level this game up.
And Wales must be watching this thinking how wonderful it's going to be 2 points each if it stays like this, because it's an absolute cracker of a game. We're inside the final 3 minutes, and I tell you, I've seen some very good games in the past, but this is up there, an absolute belter to keep you on the edge of your seats. The neutrals here must be thinking, thank Lord I got a ticket to this game.
Listeners have joined us on BBC Radio 5 Live as the attention of the planet turns to events on the field in Saint-Etienne. Is this going to be one of the big stories of the opening 2 weekends of the Rugby World Cup in France? Australia, who led in the first half, have been overturned on the scoreboard by a very hungry Fijian team who ran Wales so close last week and now want to go that one step further, and with glory in their sight they don't want this to slip away. Andrew Brace, the referee, is speaking with the front rows here as he tries to establish an orderly scrum amongst chaos here in the stadium.
And you almost feel like the horses are coming over the hill, the Wallabies are on the burst. Fiji are just trying to hold on. They've got just over 2 minutes to do it. They look like a team who's just trying to claw out the last couple of minutes and get there. If they get the ball, if they can take the ball to the middle and get downfield anywhere near the 22, surely they're going to go for the drop goal. But at the moment, they've got the scrum to contend with. They look like they've won the scrum. What's going to happen from here is they're told to use the ball.
Fiji win the scrum. It's released out into the backs. Nathaya Levu, that's a brilliant burst. Shrugs off a challenge. Pass is good outside. Habosi for the corner. Brilliant tackle. Koro Ibete has saved the moment for Australia there. It may not be enough to win the game, but it certainly prevented it from being lost as Fiji get within 5 metres, but are held up by a wonderful tackle. Koro Ibete threw himself across and brilliantly stopped Habosi there.
Well, we spoke about it in the first half, didn't we? That the fact that Fijians, they were throwing the ball wide, if they straighten the ball up, if they make sure they go through, and that's exactly what they did there. And it was a Korobete tackle who saved the day for the Wallabies. They're clinging on in their 22.
Australia need to get it down the other end. They need a converted try to avoid defeat to Fiji for the first time ever in a Rugby World Cup. They are on their own try line. Ben Donaldson, a big booming kick comes down around the halfway line. It'll be a line out to Fiji, who are almost there. Earlier on today in Bordeaux, a one-sided match when South Africa beat Romania by 76 points to 0. Later on tonight, England take on Japan, but this is a belting game in the final minute in Saint-Etienne. Australia 15, Fiji 2, but one converted try can change everything.
And Joshua Tuisova is the MasterCard player of the match as we wait this line out here. He had a cracking game, brought into that position to do some damage, and he did just that.
Cadavere's line-out throw is good for Fiji. They have possession, 10 metres inside the Wallabies half. They've just got to hold on to it now, stick it up the jumper as they try to advance over the gain line again. Australia desperately try to make tackles, and the ball is knocked on in contact. It's a scrum to Australia. This is their last chance now because the clock goes red in 12 seconds time.
Well, Eddie Jones was shown on the camera there. He looks like a man who knows what's coming. We're into that final 10 seconds. The scrum will pack, and here the Wallabies have one last chance. They're going to have to go a good 60 metres or so to get a try, to have an opportunity to tie this game up. We're in the red now. It's a case that the next time the ball goes down or goes out of play, it's game over. The Fijians are going to give this scrum absolutely everything to try and pinch it.
The clock has gone red. The next time the ball is dead, the game is over. Last chance salute for Australia here. Can they salvage something in this game? Scrum 10 metres inside their own half. Huge push by Fiji. They barrel Australia backwards. They win the scrum penalty, and that will win the game. We have just witnessed history in Saint-Etienne. Fiji have brought it. They will kick away surely to finish. It's not, the full-time whistle is not blown, but they've got possession. They're going to kick for the post. This is incredible.
The last thing I would be doing is kicking for the posts. I'll be taking a tap, I'll be putting the ball out of play.
Just kick it out.
If you kick for the post and it hits the post and comes back to the Wallabies, they have the ball. Tap the ball, kick the ball out. Don't worry against the forward against here. You're about to win for the first time against the Wallabies since 1954.
No, I mean, surely they're going to change their mind here. There is all sorts of discussions taking place. They had indicated to the referee they were going for the post, though. And that means now the obligation is there for Frank Lombardi, who missed his first kick, remember, when he came on. Booted it into the crowd.
I'd be kicking it to the right. It'd be like my golf shots. And it'd be a slice to the right, straight into the crowd down there behind the posts.
Right, the jeopardy here is minimal but possible. This hits the post, it becomes active again for Australia. Here it comes from Lamani. He's missed by miles. It was nearly kept in by Mark Nwanzalaze. It wasn't. The ball is dead, and in dramatic circumstances, Fiji have created history. They beat Australia for the first time since 1954, and having run Wales so close last week, they will feel this is deserved. The pool is wide open now. What a game in Saint-Etienne, Tulson Tullen.
Absolutely fantastic. Not only have they beaten them for the first time since 1954, they've beaten them for the first time in a Rugby World Cup. They haven't beaten a Pacific nation, or they hadn't lost to a Pacific nation, the Wallabies. 4 times they've played Pacific nations at the Rugby World Cup, 4 times they've won. They've lost this one. Fiji came into it, they felt they had the confidence, they felt they had the ability. The man of the match who they put in there in the centre in Tuisova, he was a wrecking ball. He played brilliantly. He took them over the line, the forwards went with him, and Fiji were very good money to win this game, and great work by them.
One try was enough for Fiji. Tuisova barreling his way over the line. Australia scored 2 tries of their own, Nwanga Nitawaze and Vunivalu, but it was the composed kicking, the overall game management, which has got to be admired so much. Fiji using brain as well as brawn, and they have got the job done in probably the most noteworthy result of this Rugby World Cup so far. In Saint-Etienne, it finishes Australia 15, Fiji 22.